We have, as men, and for the longest of time, have had the superiority complex or God complex or whatever you want to call it. We've been on this pedestal for so long, and I do think that it's about time, and it's been about time that we get off of it.
Cases that we witnessed over the past few weeks.
Yes.
And just around the ongoing surge and what urgent interventions you think could help in, sort of curbing or if not stemming. So I just wanted to know on your part, what do you think can be done urgently to sort of address this?
Yeah. Okay. No, firstly, I do have to mention the fact that we as Tears Foundation are always saddened every single time when we receive one of these cases. And throughout the past week, like you have mentioned, it seemed that they have been increasing drastically in the country. Lots of young women, lots of young girls being senselessly killed by their partners as well. Because, and I use the word senselessly because honestly, if you look at the reasons as to why, none of them are justified. Never could they ever be justified. So we are always saddened that there's always an increasing amount of cases. But to answer your questions, that's definitely the problem. We know what the problem is. We try and to look at the solutions. That's another thing that we pride ourselves in, is to always see in what solutions can actually be made. And from our side, at this point, we definitely do demand more accountability. And by accountability, I am talking accountability from the government and accountability from the perpetrators themselves, from the men who are actually the perpetrators of gender-based violence. Because unfortunately, and as much as they are the perpetrators, they are the leading cause, they also form a huge part of the solution. I don't know if you understand what I mean by that. And by that, actually, yes, they form a huge part of the solution. But from our government side, I definitely will start with them. They are not doing enough. Firstly, they are not doing enough to ensure that women and young girls are safe in environments, whichever environments they're in, be it in a club, be it in their homes, be it in universities, be it in their accredited student accommodations as well. They are not doing enough to ensure that for young women and young girls. Also, on top of that, we deal with a lot of cases post incidents or post of the gender-based violence incidents and domestic abuse or rape. The government is not doing enough in ensuring that there are safe havens for women and young girls as well. There's a huge shortage of shelters currently in the country. So when we receive cases, you have now a woman who is finally ready. They have the courage and they've mastered their ability to finally leave their home. But it's, where do I go? Do you understand what I'm saying? They don't know where to go. So we make it our initiative to try and find them a safe haven. But we can't help and do our part if the government is not doing their part in ensuring that these resources and these safe havens are actually available for these women. Secondly, you find that a rape victim or a domestic abuse survivor is now ready to open a case. The most crucial form of evidence for any rape victim is, of course, the DNA that is taken after the incident. But then in South Africa right now, the backlog when it comes to the DNA is so long and it's so huge, to a point where the cases end up being thrown out of court because, and the victims also end up being disheartened by the wait and the process and how long it's taking, because it's very much lengthy. And then when it comes to the men, I definitely do feel like toxic masculinity and ending toxic masculinity is very much paramount. And I say this as a man myself and as a male intervention specialist for Tears Foundation. We have, as men, and for the longest of time, have had the superiority complex or God complex or whatever you want to call it. We've been on this pedestal for so long, and I do think that it's about time, and it's been about time that we get off of it. That's the most important thing that we can do right now for the men and in turn for the women and young girls and for gender-based violence prevention in the country. Do not actually have any much more power or superiority over women. A woman or a girl is not inferior to you, because that is what in turn then leads to the violence and the aggressive nature that they display, in terms of gender-based violence and in terms of beating women and raping women, because they feel as if they're entitled to them. They're entitled to their bodies, they're entitled, and they own them. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I personally also always make sure, you do find a lot of men that are ready and willing to do the work, but it does not happen more often than it does, women who actually are raped and women who are actually abused, unfortunately, in the country right now. And another thing, you find that the women want to be their savior. I feel like women also need to understand and that they can say no and that their no is just a no. We also they also need to understand that they are not anybody's counselor, they are not anybody's savior. They do not have to build the man. If the man is abusive, the man is abusive. Protect yourself and get out of that abusive environment. It's not an easy process, but the only way that you can be safe is if you get away from that. You should not stay in there with the hopes of saying that you will try, and make him a better man. That is a process and a journey that he has to take on his own, and he has to get to that point where he is ready to do that for himself.
So essentially, it helps some of the just say that it would take, a combined effort. It won't just be on
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it certainly
Yeah.
is, because the job that we do is dependent on the government, in as much as it is dependent on us wanting to help and us having gone to study and wanting to make the world and our country a better place. But we can't do what we do and ensure the safety of everyone in the country unless the government also chimes in and actually plays their part as well.
100%, 100%.
Absolutely.
No, thank you so much. I really appreciate you weighing in on that.
Heaven couldn't wait.